How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of Frankenstein. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. Well, we've warned you.
You've been warned. Welcome back to the Frankenstein Minute, the podcast where we dissect the Universal Frankenstein series minute by minute. I'm Bill Evenson.
And I'm Thom Lang, and if you can't tell, it's been about a year and a half since a gap in between this episode and last week, so we're a little rusty, bear with us. We're at minute 61 of 1931's Frankenstein, where it is nothing but dogs barking and guys with torches.
And my first note is incessant yelping, not unlike our podcast.
This is the perfect minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It is a thing that I note when I watch this movie, because I think I've said before, I'll have this movie on and not even be watching it. Absolutely. And then this barking is very
it's constant.
It's kind of constant, and that's this minute starts with incessant yelping,
which you might hear in the background because we have in order to fatten the coffers here at the Long Dead Studios, we've opened a doggy daycare. So if you hear some incessant yelping in the background, you'll understand.
Feel free to tweet us if you need some help. No, I don't. We got enough. We got enough dogs. Let's put it that way.
They passed by a road sign, and I tried my damnedest to read what it says.
It is the sign from MASH, right? It says it says mountains this way, lake party this way.
It's still there in the San Fernando Valley. No, it's something in German. I tried to read it. I can't make it out, even blowing it up, and it's just too indistinct in the background. So.
People will remember, if they've listened to the podcast before, we do watch the minute before we record, and we now have upgraded. The screen is a little bit bigger, and I looked at it just now.
Yeah, still couldn't.
No idea. Yep. Something in German.
Yeah.
But it does seem to show, it does seem to be like that MASH sign.
It's got directional,
direction signs this way and that way.
Right, The windmill is this way. The monsters
terrorizing that way.
Yeah. My guess is that this was shot at the Universal backlot, probably the same hills that you see in the beginning of Dracula. Okay. Those were out in the San Fernando Valley, out behind the studio.
Okay.
Now I suppose it's all theme park or condos or God knows what it is now.
I suppose.
That's all been so developed, it's unrecognizable.
So that sign could be Transylvanian then. It could
be left over. It's the Borgo Pass.
It's the Borgo Pass.
I don't know. This footage got a lot of mileage. Universal got a lot of mileage out of this. It shows up in Bride, in the recap that Lord Byron does. It shows up in Ghost.
Both of these recaps, right?
He believes so, yeah.
Isn't Ghost part of the recap as well?
Yeah.
Which is it's like fair. You will allow that. That's fair use of it.
But it also shows up in The Mummy's Tomb.
Okay, that makes sense too, because what I know about those mummy movies
is I'm surprised that by the time they got to the third Chaney one, it's not like 100% stock footage.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They're shot in an afternoon. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's Chaney in the last one.
Oh, yeah?
It's a rubber mask, not makeup.
Yep.
Why bother? We can just get a stunt man who's about the same build, do it.
And maybe a little bit less difficult to work with.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a theory.
Kind of like this podcast. Remember who used to be on it when we started?
Oh yeah, it was terrible. Heads rolled and
So they show up in front of that sign, and then Vogel says Frankenstein Mountains, and then he says Ludwig, and he just waves his arms. To me, this looks like a guy who can't remember what he's supposed to be doing. It looks like Lionel Belmore isn't sure what he's supposed to say. Well, 3 weeks ago...
3 in the morning, so who knows?
You think? I suppose that's probably true.
Yeah,
good point. It's like 3 weeks ago, he said where everybody was going to go.
Right.
Frankenstein is mountains. Ludwig is the woods.
The woods.
And Vogel is the lake party.
Yes.
And that's what he says, except for the Ludwig party. Just waves his arms and people start walking because they just give up on him saying what his line really is.
Fine.
I guess I always forget because I don't have the script for this one, but you have it.
Yeah.
Does he say in the script, or do you know?
Yeah, he does. That plays out about the same. I think he says that he indicates the woods. I don't remember. remember.
Sure.
I just looked at it last night, so you can't expect me to.
Yep, I understand. I don't mean to throw you under the...
Yeah.
But
these sequences are both very different in the script, both the Flory and the one that Whale used. You have the one in Flory, like everything in it is way too long, way elaborate, on and on and on. Victor and the Baron take part in it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so there's just all sorts of this back and forth with them. It goes on page after page after page. It's trimmed down a bit in the Whale script, but and Victor is eliminated.
Why is Victor eliminated?
Well, because Henry told him to stay home and watch Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, that's the actual reason. I like that.
Reason.
I meant the other question. Why do you think he's eliminated? I was gonna say we'll probably make some by now standard Frankenstein minute slamming bowls joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The script actually explains
Henry
it.
explicitly says, "You stay here and take care of her."
Because you're a boob, and we don't need you
really
tripping
don't
over
need
things.
Your buffoonery. Well,
Your
we already
buffoonery.
have Lionel Belmore. We
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
Make it worse.
Yeah, it's bad enough.
We don't need to make it any
We got
worse.
Michael Mark.
Yeah.
Look what I got to
Look
work with.
at
Well, yeah, I like that there's an actual reason. Actually, the reason I was thinking is probably more legitimate. Is he's the star practically? Yeah, Bowles is he's billed
he's
third.
billed third, yeah.
So you got your Clive, your Bowles, and your Clark.
Right.
So.
Which, by the way, is available on a T-shirt from.
That's right. Available at redbubble.com. Something Frankenstein Minute. Yeah. But yeah. So of your three main stars,
right.
And even if you were to throw Van Sloan in there, you've just got Clive.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's not call Bowles. We don't need him to show up at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do any night work probably.
I doubt it. I don't think he did any. To my knowledge, did any location.
Didn't do any location work, yeah.
It's all in the studio.
Okay.
So of the three, he probably worked the least. Well, I mean that.
He had the cushiest.
It shows the performance that he worked the least, but he also probably the least calendar days of the three.
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I think that guy. Yeah. It's. Like we've talked about, I'm sure, before, Lugosi shows up on set for Son of Frankenstein, and the director says, this guy's doing a great job, and it's a crime that he's getting paid so little.
Shafted by Universal, yeah.
So let's bump his part up.
Right.
Actually, we've talked about it with Whale, too, him bumping up people's parts like
Fry's. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does that in this, and he did a little bit in Invisible Man, but definitely in Bride as well. He makes Carl. Mm-hmm. Carl is sort of a composite of a couple characters in the final cut, which we'll talk about in the coming months.
I'm just babbling.
Yeah. No, it's a valid point.
So we come to this. I like the idea that everybody marches to this point where there's this sign,
this crossroads,
which says, because if you were going to go to the woods, well, you got to go to the sign. You take this way. If you're going to go to the lake, well, you go to the sign. You go that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, and that's fun. And everyone goes in their different directions. Even when they cut back to the wider shot
of
everybody literally splits into three different directions. One goes off. Like I shouldn't gesture with my hands. It's not helping the audio podcast. But to the back, and one goes to the screen right, and one goes to the screen left to the front.
Yeah, and then Lionel Belmore sort of totters along behind everybody. Did you notice that?
Not only did I notice it, but if you look at it, it seems to me like he's supposed to, because he doesn't start moving right away.
Right.
Either Belmore doesn't know what he's supposed to do, or his character's supposed to totter along, and I think it is.
I give him more credit, saying, I
think that's what's supposed to happen.
He's supposed to, because he is sort of overseeing everything. So okay, everybody is going the right way. Okay, I'll go.
Well, that makes sense. I like that.
That's kind of how I read it.
Okay.
Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but it doesn't look like he's befuddled. It doesn't look like a comic bit that he's lagging behind. It looks like he's just making sure things are going smoothly, smoothly as a bloodthirsty mob, I guess, can go.
As a lynch mob.
Yeah.
So here's my thought on that. So I listened to a podcast recently that talked about Lionel Belmore's character. It's called Frankenstein Minute. Yeah. And about 3 weeks ago, we talked about
I'll check it out.
That's the reason I'm here is to refute what they had to say.
Okay.
Which was that the notion was raised that Belmore was a figure of fun at the beginning of the film, but at this late stage in the film, he actually comes across as competent.
Yes.
And I am here now to refute that because, and this is Exhibit A, is this minute where I think he does look a little bit bumbling. First of all, the waving his arms about without remembering his line. To me, that's the way it plays out. And I just think, this is Exhibit A. We've got a couple more minutes of Belmore left.
Yes, we do.
So just in case somebody listened to minute 58 or whatever it was, where we agreed he's now a figure. He's no longer a figure of fun. I now.
So you say he's back to being a figure of fun, or he never left that?
Well, I'd have to go back and watch 58 again, I guess, or whatever it was, where he gives the little silence speech. But
I think from the moment that Michael Mark brings Marilyn Harris's body to him,
that's a good
he's
point.
very professional throughout that.
That's a good point. I noted the line in question. My poor man.
Yeah.
Yes, he does handle that well.
And I think at this stage, it's chaos already, and he's doing his best to control the chaos.
Right.
So I'm gonna argue that he's a figure of fun at this point, in that he's trying his best to keep everything as under control as a vigilante mob can be.
I couldn't have asked for anything more than we're going to have a disagreement on Frankenstein Minute.
Yeah, all right.
We'll have long episodes coming up about the boobery of Lionel Belmore. But no, yes, at this point,
special episode for those Patreon subscribers.
Patreons will get to hear the actual physical violence.
Tables are overturned.
Yes. Okay, so everybody splits up. We don't see anybody searching the woods, but we do see,
because we never really see the woods in this film, other than around the lake, Toluca Lake. But
couple of trees.
There's some willows and things, but
we do see the lake party.
We do see the lake party.
They get in the boats.
It's a great shot.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's another thing I have is this cinematography, and it's going to have to be a thing we talk about over the next few minutes. Yeah. There's absolutely no way to avoid the fact that this movie is going to now trade between being a beautiful example of cinematography and something that's rather egregious that I think we can mention in this minute, but we probably talk about next minute.
It's more prevalent in the next minute, but it does at the very end of this minute. As with
starts to go off the rails.
My next note actually was after the beautiful shot of the lake, really nice rich blacks and nice highlights on the men. And
well, let me stop you then, because what are they doing in the lake? Are they searching the lake, or are they searching the shore?
Well, there's guys in a boat, and then there's guys on shore, kind of other side of the reeds, going along. So I just assume they're any potential hiding place.
Anywhere. It could be in the lake, could be in the shore.
Yeah.
All right. It makes sense. I think that's a reasonable way to behave. Personally, I would assume he wouldn't be in the lake, but that's because I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
And I know that he doesn't like that.
He doesn't want to be in the lake.
But I get that they wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It's a reasonable, you want to...
He's not going for a swim.
No.
After what we saw earlier.
He's not. But as the organizer of the mob or whatever, you want to search every possibility where he could potentially be.
Well, you want to search crevices.
You want to search the woods. You want to search some
ravines.
Windmills, apparently.
Well, don't get ahead of it. Oh, no.
Baron is waiting there.
When you talk about the beautiful dark shots, too, the torches, it just looks so fantastic.
Yeah,
this whole minute has so many shots of really just torches going through
a
black space. Yeah. And there's those shots of, there's like a stripe of light.
Oh, yeah, they like stream down.
Like a diagonal,
they're way up on a crane.
I was going to say, it's presumably a crane shot.
And shooting down, or up on a tower or a roof of something or whatever, but it's
up on a windmill, maybe.
Up on a windmill.
Something.
It's great, because there's this sort of diagonal streak of light that cuts through it.
That when it comes up on the screen, I'm not sure I know what I'm looking at, and it doesn't matter. It's
like a field, and they're just cutting through it.
Yeah.
And it looks great.
And we've now entered a space where things like that don't matter, where there are so many. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting rusty, and on podcasting, and I don't know how to explain it. But like the Whale's ideas about how to frame a space are very deliberate.
Yes.
There's that deliberate word again.
Yeah. Well, I think in his instance, I think it's warranted. You could say, we're watching Dracula, and is that cardboard wedged between the bed and the lamp? Is it deliberate?
There's no cardboard in this movie.
No, there's not a hunk of cardboard.
But I'm arguing that this is deliberate.
Oh no! I'm saying it is very much so. Yes.
That vaguely diagonal, weird space.
My point was that you can't overstress things being deliberate in Whale's work versus, say, Florey's with if you've had the misfortune of sitting through Murders in the Rue Morgue, or
I'm not familiar with his work.
Are you?
Florey, never heard of him.
No?
I don't know who that is.
All right. Anyway.
So then
we,
and there are. I also want to point out too, not just those shots that are clearly on location, but plenty of shots in this minute of, on the
soundstage?
On the stage with the sky in the background looking great.
Yeah.
Lots of them. Looks beautiful.
Yeah, when it's properly framed and there's not massive wrinkles running through it, it looks great. That's what I was going to say, is that there's a lot of great shots with silhouettes and stuff that are just slightly marred by the fact that it is so obviously a cyclorama hanging loosely from the ceiling of the soundstage.
And there's just no getting around it.
No, it's not. You can't
guess,
ignore it.
Yeah, can't ignore it. Can't try and make it. So there is a sort of a dreamlike or fantasy element to this film. So when you cut to a stage like that and you look at how it was built and how it was conceived, it can seem like, okay, it can be inviting to see it as a dreamlike stage situation.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help at all.
No, it doesn't help. The wrinkles are
ruin
wrinkles.
It completely.
Yeah. And I think that's true to a point. You certainly get that feeling much, much more in Bride of Frankenstein, where the whole thing
That's a very good point,
is very stylized like that. And the only real outdoor shots are on the back lot in the village. Everything else was...
Which might as well be a stage. It
is basically
in Bride,
a stage.
especially.
It basically is a stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no getting around the fact that is an obvious error or obvious carelessness or something. I don't know how that would not be caught and corrected. I know he was over budget and over schedule, but
that's what I was about to say. That's the only explanation we can really come up with is you're in a hurry, and those are the last shots.
Yeah.
And we know that those were, we know that this part of the movie was shot at the end, but I don't know that we know to that level of detail whether these shots were shot at the end.
Yeah, I don't have the schedule. Someone like Tom Weaver might, or Philip Riley might know that better than a couple of guys sitting here babbling.
At the
Belong Dead.
The doggy daycare.
Doggy daycare.
Belong Dead doggy daycare. So then,
but they're still. If you can look past the wrinkly sky, which at this point I can.
Oh my God, we're only sitting here because we can.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no question that we can. We can look past Bull's performance.
The wrinkly sky.
Those are really the big two.
Those are the big, yeah. Otherwise, there's some great shots of silhouette, the characters silhouetted against it. So it's lit brighter than the foreground. Well, I think it looks great.
Yeah, that's also frustrating.
What's frustrating is that it's
look what we have here. This is beautiful.
And then
it's half not beautiful. Yeah,
right.
It's awful.
There's a note on IMDb under this film. If you look on shooting locations, they claim that this was shot at Vasquez Rocks, which is a famous. If you've seen Star Trek with the Gorn,
sure,
that was shot there. A lot of stuff was shot there, and these rocks look like it, but it's very clearly an interior set.
Yeah, there's no rocks. That's interesting. I can't picture a location shot in this film that has rocks in it.
No, it's not. It's a set. And
there's some grass in the location parts, but when there's rocks, they're inside.
But I think the formation of the rocks and stuff on the set are similar to what's at Vasquez Rocks. I didn't get to see it when I was out there last time, but it's a goal.
That's right.
And
maybe we should try and get out there.
Yeah, we'll try to get out to.
So then there's a part that I wanted to mention where Henry says, "Come on, boys," and just that line, just the phrasing, "Come on, boys," leads me to think that we're now reaching the adventure sort of part of this.
It is.
It isn't a horror. It isn't. We're not thinking about drowned little girls anymore.
It's no longer a melodrama. It's no longer a horror movie. It is an adventure.
It's, come on, boys.
It's an action movie. Yeah.
It's the 1931 action movie. Which to a modern audience, including myself, isn't satisfying in the same way that I don't know. I don't want to name. Yeah. Well, there you go. Indiana Jones is a great example. Indiana Jones changed everything where that's concerned. Well, even James Bond or the Bourne movies.
Yeah, but I mean, for 31, this is
we're now in an action adventure film, which is great because this movie's trying to be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It is a horror film. It is a
monster movie.
It's a monster movie, and as we've said, when there wasn't such a thing. Yeah. So then he says, "Keep together," and then he immediately separates people. He says, "You go that way," and then. But what's great is he says, "You you search this area and then the rest of us will go this way, like he's going to assign one guy to every crevice and one guy to every ravine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Henry's in charge. He's
in charge of the mountain people, so...
That's right. He's got the mountain people. And it strikes me that this is how, like, a lynch mob, because I can't think of a better way to describe it. Lynch mob is
vigilante mob.
Vigilante mob. They actually would work. It would work in a more in a less horrible context. Even if we were just searching for, say, a missing dog, a little girl, something. Right. You might deputize people, and everybody would say, okay, you do this, you do that. Yeah. And Frankenstein is as good at it as anybody else, I guess. It kind of shows.
Do you think he's better than the Burgermeister?
I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. Is nobody's running this show.
Well, it's a mob after all.
It is literally a torch wielding mob.
It is, yes. Which we will see in every single sequel except Abbott and Costello.
If you have stumbled upon this podcast and you're not a fan of torch wielding mobs,
sorry.
You're gonna have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, sorry.
Because that's what this is. This entire
8 films
series
of torch wielding.
Even
mob.
fucking young Frankenstein has torch wielding mob.
Torch wielding mob. Yep.
All right.
Which is something that the Hammer films never really did.
That's a good point.
I don't recall there ever being.
Well, I mean, they catch him.
They do, but it's a different.
There's a guillotine. There's a lot. Yeah,
different circumstances.
That's true. He goes through legal proceedings.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. There are legal proceedings, but they're weird.
Yeah, they are weird. It is a weird. If we live that long, maybe we'll have to do all.
Live that long.
6 or 7 Hammer Frankensteins too.
It'd be fun.
It would be fun. I think they're good fodder for a couple of bonus episodes for our Patreon subscribers.
Oh, don't start making promises.
I'm not making any promises. I said I think it'd be a good idea. That's as far as I'm going to go.
Let's go 61. Done. That's all I can promise is 61. Well, next week we'll see if we can get 62 done.
Well, while we're here though,
yes,
there is something coming up.
Okay, so what day is it? Today's the 25th or something like that. Yeah. So if you're listening to this on release day
or thereabouts,
you should know.
Yes, you should know that. Frankie does.
Halloween is coming up.
And Frankie does go to Hollywood, and turns that Frankenstein Minute is going to Hollywood to join our friend and fan Dino Stamatopoulos on his live, was it 26, 28 hour?
I think it's 27. Because he wants to go.
Oh, it's like from
midnight Eastern to midnight Pacific.
Yes, that's it.
So that's more than 24. That's 27. Yeah. 27-hour podcast.
And we will be joining him for that.
Yep. And unfortunately for our listeners, it's a video podcast, so you'll get to see us in all our glory.
Yeah. So if you are gluttons for punishment, there we are.
And I might as well say this, because as of this moment, I'm pretty sure it's streaming at sorryabouteverything.com.
Yes, I was just going to mention that.
Which, let's hope is the correct URL. I got to assume that's right.
It has been for quite some time, so I'm assuming that's what it is.
All right, but good.
Yeah, we'll also post something on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff if I happen to remember to do that.
And I'm sorry, this is so clumsy. You're going to have to edit this.
No,
I apologize,
I'm leaving
Thom.
this in. I'm going to drag it out.
But as of this moment, we think we're going to be on between the hours roughly of 5 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yes, that's
so sometime around that time you'll want to tune in.
Yes.
This is the never-ending minute. What are we at? 45 minutes now.
It's an hour and a half. I think that's too long.
All right, Thom. Gotta walk the dogs.
You can tell we haven't had much sleep.
Oh boy.